Now that we've defined the exterior of our product, we should give some thought to what's going on the inside. For example, at the moment, you'll notice that our magical transducer is just floating out in thin air. There's nothing holding it up. And on the inside of this product, we're going to need some kind of bracket that will hold our speaker in place. And not only that, we're going to need access to the front side of that bracket so that we can screw it in, right? You have to think about that kind of stuff when you're designing a product. So the next step, I think, would be to put in something, just something to represent what will be that bracket. We don't have to detail the whole thing out because we don't really know yet how it's going to interface with the rest of this design. We do know that there will be a bracket, so we might as well put it in. So let's go up to Insert Components and drop that down. We'll add a new part. And as you know, we're going to get a little green check mark next to our cursor because it's going to allow us to place our part wherever we want. We're not going to place it though. Let's just hit the Escape key to drop that green check mark. That's a really important point. Don't forget that. And then the new part that it creates has no name. Let's call this our bracket and hit Enter. And the name of that is in square brackets. And as you know, the square brackets on either side of this file name means that it's not an external part file at the moment. It's actually internal. It's contained within our assembly file, which is convenient, as you know. But in general, it's going to be more robust to right-click on that and say Save Part in External File. When we hit OK, it's going to drop a new part file in the folder alongside whichever folder happens to contain our assembly. So we can see our assembly here, and we now have bracket right next to it. So the bracket is a separate file. Now the way that we're doing this is really important. We're using a master model, and if you've followed along with cadjunkie tutorials at all, you know we use these all the time. They're absolutely critical to the way that I use SolidWorks in my practice. And there are lots of reasons. Let's open up this bracket file and say Insert Part, and we'll grab the master model that we've created and hit OK. And in this case, all we need are the surface bodies and the unabsorbed sketches. And very importantly, I'm not going to click out in my viewport. I'm going to just hit OK to the Insert Part dialog, and that's going to put this exactly at the center of my document, which is exactly where I want it. Now, because I have inserted this master model as a feature in the part document, that means that if I save this, let's close this up and save it, and then hide this part for a second. That means that this bracket is completely independent of my assembly. It works no matter what. Even if I close my assembly completely, and just let's save what we've done, I'll go back to my folder. We'll open up that bracket file all by itself. It works just fine. There's nothing broken about it because it's referencing the master model directly. It doesn't need to be in the context of our assembly, and that's really important. Okay, anyway, let's close this up again. We'll go back. We'll reopen our assembly. Perfect. And let's start with this bracket. I'm going to show the bracket and then right-click and click on Edit Part to edit that part in context. I'm then going to hide my master model here in the assembly. So now all I can see is my bracket. I'll also right-click the bracket and go up to Change Transparency just to make it a little bit easier to see what's going on. So this is nice and transparent. All right, now let's go to the right plane of our bracket, the blue right plane down here, not the one up here, and create a sketch on that plane. Our first sketch is going to be a center line that goes straight across our product. And let's zoom in here. I'm going to drag it in to where it's really close to the back face of where our transducer is. And so just get it kind of close. It doesn't have to be perfect. We can dimension this later. I'm also going to control click on this sketch right here, the axis, the center axis of our subwoofer. And in the properties, I can add a perpendicular constraint, which will cause this sketch to always be perpendicular to this one, which is exactly what we want, obviously. And then the one last thing we should do is add a dimension any old place. So I'm going to grab a smart dimension and dimension from this line back to the origin of my part. Right now it's at 248, and I just like for things to be even, so I'm going to make it an even 250, just perfect. We'll exit that sketch, and we now have the first sketch of our bracket.